The ground shook like thunder as bombs fell from the sky. Dust and smoke turned the blue afternoon into a blur of red and gray. Commander Ethan Ward sprinted through the burning ruins of what once was a peaceful alien village. His armor was cracked, and blood ran down his arm, but he didn't stop. The screams were everywhere. Alien civilian soldiers and machines all trapped in chaos. He wasn't supposed to be here. The mission had already been called off. His squad had retreated. But then he heard it, a faint cry through the smoke, a sound so soft, so scared it froze him in place. He turned toward the sound, his breathing heavy inside the helmet. "Hello," he shouted. "Is anyone there?" No answer, only the crackling of fire and the distant roar of enemy ships circling above. Ethan followed the sound anyway, pushing aside burning debris until he saw her. A small figure lay curled between two broken walls. The dust cleared just enough for him to see. She wasn't human. Her skin was pale violet, glowing faintly in the dim light. Her hair shimmered silver white, tangled and dirty, yet strangely beautiful. She was young, maybe 10 or 12, and trembling as she tried to hide from the explosions. Ethan froze for a moment. His orders were clear. No rescues, no interference. This planet wasn't theirs. But he couldn't look away from her eyes, bright blue, wide with fear, staring right at him. Another explosion hit nearby, throwing stones and dust into the air. She cried out and covered her head. That sound, it pierced right through the noise of war. Ethan dropped his rifle and rushed toward her. "Hey, it's okay. I've got you," he shouted, reaching out. She flinched, her small hands covering her face. He knelt down, lowering his voice. "You're safe now. I'm not going to hurt you, okay?" Slowly, she looked up. Her voice was soft, trembling, but strange and musical. "You human?" He nodded quickly. "Yes, I'm human, and I'm getting you out of here." A nearby building collapsed with a deafening roar. The girl screamed, and Ethan grabbed her, pulling her close. Fire rained down, and the ground shook again. He lifted her into his arms, holding her tight as he ran through the ruins. The radio in his helmet crackled. "Ward, where the hell are you? We're pulling out, now." He pressed the comms button. "Negative. I found a survivor." "Survivor? We don't have time. The ships are about to—" Static. The signal cut off. He looked down at the girl. Her small hands gripped his armor. Her eyes were wide, shining like glass. "Hold on," he whispered. "I'm not leaving you." Behind him, enemy drones descended from the sky, their engines humming. Laser fire hit the ground around him. Dust flew into the air as he ducked behind a half-destroyed wall. He checked his weapon. Half a clip left. The girl hit her face against his chest. Trembling, he could feel her heart beat through her skin, fast and fragile. "Listen," he said, trying to smile even though his own heart pounded. "We're going to make it. You trust me?" She nodded slowly, eyes full of tears. Ethan peeked around the corner. The drones were moving closer. He took a deep breath, counted to 3, and fired. 2 drones fell, but the third fired back. The blast hit the wall behind him, throwing both of them to the ground. His ears rang as he struggled to stand. The girl was crying again, clutching his arm. "Don't leave," she whispered. He forced himself up, ignoring the pain. "I said I wouldn't." With a grunt, he picked her up again and ran. Smoke and fire surrounded them. The air burned his throat, but he didn't stop. Every step felt heavier, but he held her close, shielding her body with his own. Finally, he reached a narrow canyon at the edge of the village. The noise faded slightly. He crouched behind a large stone and laid her down gently. Her face was pale. She looked exhausted, but alive. He tore a piece of his sleeve and wiped the dust from her forehead. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "Ari." He smiled faintly. "Okay, Ari. I'm Ethan." "Why? Help me," she asked weakly. He looked away for a moment, staring at the burning horizon. "Because I couldn't just walk away." The sound of engines returned. Ethan turned and saw more ships approaching. The enemy's reinforcements. He knew what that meant. The bombing wasn't over. He looked at the little alien girl again. Her small hands reached for his arm, her eyes pleading. He tightened his grip around her shoulders. "No matter what happens," he said, his voice steady, "I won't let go. You hear me?" The ground trembled again. The light of explosions flashed across their faces. Ethan held her tighter as fire rained from the sky. He had no plan, no backup, no orders, just one promise: to keep her alive. And as the bombs fell, Ethan Ward refused to let go. Smoke drifted to the narrow canyon as Ethan carried Ari deeper into the shadows. The sound of bombs had faded, but the sky still burned orange. The air smelled of metal and ash. Every few steps, he looked up, scanning for drones. Nothing yet. He found a small cave entrance hidden behind a pile of fallen stones. "This'll do," he muttered. Gently, he placed Ari down inside. She sat quietly, her small hands folded in her lap. Her violet skin shimmered faintly even in the dim light. Ethan pulled off his helmet, his short dark hair sticking to his forehead with sweat. He set his rifle aside and took a deep breath. "Are you hurt anywhere?" he asked. Ari shook her head. "No, just scared." He smiled softly. "Yeah, me too." That made her blink in surprise. "Humans get scared?" Ethan chuckled. "All the time." For a moment, silence filled the cave, only the soft crackle of fires in the distance. He reached into his pack and handed her a small water pouch. "Here, drink slow." She hesitated, sniffed it, then took a sip. Her eyes widened slightly. "It's cold." Ethan nodded. "That's good. Means my cooling unit still works." She looked at him curiously. "You saved me. But why? Your people fight mine." He sighed, leaning against the stone wall. "Yeah, that's what the orders say. But orders don't mean much when you see a kid trapped under fire." Her gaze softened. "You kind." Ethan smirked. "Don't let the others hear you say that." A sudden noise outside made both of them freeze, a metallic whine echoing through the canyon. Ethan grabbed his rifle and moved silently to the cave entrance. He peeked out. A drone hovered near the edge of the canyon, scanning the ground with a red beam. Its sensors swept closer. Ethan's pulse quickened. He turned back toward Ari and motioned for silence. The girl pressed her palms together, her luminous skin dimming slightly as if she were trying to hide her glow. Ethan watched, confused, but then the drone passed right over their position and kept going, completely ignoring them. He frowned. "What just happened?" Ari looked away shyly. "I can hide energy. My mother teach me." Ethan blinked. "You can mask your heat signature?" She nodded. "I make body cold. Drones not see." He let out a low whistle. "That's impressive." Her expression turned sad. "Mother say it keep me safe." "She gone now." Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm sorry." She looked up at him, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You sound like her." He swallowed hard, unsure what to say. Then she must have been a good person. For a while, they sat quietly, listening to the distant echoes of war. Ethan checked his communicator again. Still dead. The signal was jammed. He had no way to call for help. He looked at the girl again. "Ari, do you know where your people are? Maybe I can get you to them." She shook her head. "No, they run to the mountains when ships came. I lost." Ethan sighed. He couldn't stay here long. The enemy would sweep the area soon, but he also couldn't leave her. Then, from somewhere inside the cave, came a faint hum, a strange rhythmic vibration like a low pulse. Ethan turned toward the sound. "You hear that?" Ari's eyes widened. "Yes." He followed the noise deeper into the cave. The light from his visor illuminated something half buried under rock, a small alien beacon glowing blue. It wasn't military. It looked old, ancient even, covered in symbols. Ethan brushed off the dust and frowned. "This thing's still active." Ari stepped closer. "It's my people's signal. It call home." Before he could ask more, the beacon's light pulsed brighter. His helmet display flickered to life, filling with strange symbols he couldn't read. Then, a distorted voice echoed through his comms. Part human, part alien. Guardian protocol reactivated. Subject identified. Ari of House Sran. Ethan's blood ran cold. What the hell? The light expanded, scanning the cave. Ari stared, frightened but transfixed. It knows me. He turned toward her. Ari, who are you? She hesitated, tears filling her eyes. I don't know. Mother say I must hide. They want me because of this. The beacon's glow suddenly intensified, casting bright reflections on the walls. Ethan shielded his face as the air filled with static energy. Then, just as suddenly, it dimmed and went dark again. Silence returned. Ethan slowly exhaled. Well, looks like we just told everyone where we are. Ari grabbed his arm. You promised not to leave. He looked at her, really looked at her. Whatever that beacon was, it recognized her. That meant someone somewhere was looking for this child. He nodded. I'm not leaving. We'll figure this out together. Ari smiled faintly, her eyes glowing softly. You different from others. Ethan chuckled quietly. Yeah, I get that a lot. Then the ground trembled again. A low, distant rumble rolled through the canyon. Ethan stepped outside and saw it. A formation of alien warships moving slowly across the sky, their shadows swallowing the sunlight. He clenched his fists. They're back. He turned to Ari. We move now. That beacon might have sent a signal. We can't stay here. She stood quickly, brushing dust from her dress. Where we go? Ethan looked toward the horizon. There's an old human outpost about 15 miles north. If I can reach it, maybe I can call for extraction. He picked up his rifle, slung his pack over one shoulder, and extended his hand to her. Stay close. She took his hand without hesitation. And as they stepped out into the bright daylight, the canyon behind them shook again, this time with something larger than bombs. Something had heard the signal. The desert stretched endlessly before them, flat, burning, and silent except for the wind. The sunlight was sharp and white, making the sand shimmer like fire. Ethan walked carefully, his armor creaking with every step. Ari followed close beside him, her small hand gripping his tightly. They had been walking for hours, since leaving the canyon. The air was dry and hot. Ethan's helmet visor flashed warnings, oxygen filter low, hydration critical. But he ignored them. All that mattered was keeping the girl alive. Ari stumbled once, and he immediately stopped, kneeling beside her. Hey, easy, he said softly. You okay? She nodded weakly. Just tired. He opened his water pouch and handed it to her. Here. Small sips again. She obeyed, her glowing blue eyes looking up at him gratefully. You never stop helping, she said quietly. Ethan smiled tiredly. That's kind of my thing. As they rested in the shade of a broken metal wreck, Ethan looked out toward the horizon. In the distance, smoke trails marked the path of patrol ships. He clenched his jaw. They're still searching. Ari tilted her head. Your people or mine? He hesitated. Could be both. She frowned. But why humans chase you? You saved me. Ethan sighed. Because saving you means disobeying orders. And my people don't like soldiers who break rules. She was quiet for a while, thinking. Then she said softly, You different from them. Ethan chuckled. You keep saying that. Ari's gaze wandered to the sand, where her small fingers traced a symbol. It glowed faintly, lines of light forming a shape that hovered above the ground for a second before fading away. Ethan blinked. What was that? She looked startled. I didn't mean to. It just happens when I feel. She paused, searching for the word. Safe. He stared at the spot. That wasn't just light. It looked like energy, controlled energy. Ari's shoulders lowered. Mothers say it's gift, but soldiers came when they find out. They say I'm dangerous. Ethan studied her face. So innocent, so calm, yet hiding something powerful. You? Dangerous? You're just a kid. She met his eyes. Mothers say power, not evil. People using it wrong is. Before he could reply, a sudden mechanical sound broke the silence. A low, distant whirring that grew louder. Ethan turned sharply and spotted small black dots in the sky. Drones. Down! He hissed, pulling Ari behind the wreckage. The drones passed overhead, their scanning beams slicing across the sand. Ethan pressed a button on his armor, switching his suit to low-power stealth mode. Ari closed her eyes, her skin dimming again until her glow almost vanished. The drones hovered for a moment, then moved on. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Good work, kid." She looked up with a small smile. "You teach me hide better." "Yeah," he said, standing and scanning the sky again. "We'll make a soldier out of you yet." They continued moving until the sun began to fall. The desert cooled slightly, turning gold and violet under the fading light. In the distance, Ethan finally saw it, a shape half buried in sand, the old human outpost. "There it is," he said. "We made it." Ari looked relieved. "Home." He shook his head. "Not exactly, but safe for now." They reached the outpost just as darkness fell. The metal doors were rusted, but Ethan managed to pry one open with effort. Inside, the air was stale, but cooler. Broken lights flickered across the control panels. He placed Ari on a seat and began checking the systems. "Come on, give me something," he muttered, hitting the console. Static. Then, faintly, a voice came through. "This is Command Base Delta. Identify yourself." Ethan froze. Then he pressed the transmitter. "This is Commander Ward, 2nd Recon. I've got a civilian survivor, alien origin. Request immediate extraction." There was silence for a moment. Then the voice returned, sharp, suspicious. "Alien survivor? Repeat, alien?" "Yes," Ethan said firmly. "A child. She's unarmed and injured. I need evac." The line went dead. Ethan frowned. "No, no, no." Ari looked worried. "They not come." He sighed. "No." They heard the word alien and shut the line. "Figures." Ari's eyes shimmered sadly. "Because I'm not human." He kneeled beside her. "Hey, listen to me. Don't you ever think this is your fault. You didn't start this war." She gave him a small smile, but tears glistened on her cheeks. Suddenly, the console flickered again, only this time, not with human code. Strange alien symbols filled the screen, glowing bright blue. Ethan stepped back. "What the hell is that?" Ari's eyes widened. "It's them, my people. They find me." Before he could react, a voice, calm, deep, and alien, spoke through the speaker. "Ari of House Wren, your signal has been received. Do not trust the human. He will deliver you to them." Ari gasped and looked at Ethan. "No, that not true." Ethan stared at the console, his pulse racing. "They can hear us? Release the child." The voice continued. "She belongs to us." Ethan slammed his fist on the transmitter. "Not happening." The screen blinked off again, leaving them in silence. Ari stared at him, trembling. "They lie. I know they lie." Ethan's expression softened. "I believe you." He turned toward the doorway and looked into the night. The horizon flickered with distant lights. Ships, maybe dozens of them, closing in. He looked back at the girl. "Looks like both sides are coming now." Ari whispered, "What do we do?" Ethan loaded his rifle, his jaw tightening. "We run. And this time we don't stop." Outside, the first drops of burning debris began to fall again, another bombardment starting. Ethan picked Ari up and ran into the darkness, holding her close as the night sky lit up with fire. And once again, he refused to let go. The transport ship landed on the outskirts of Veres, the alien capital, once called a city of glass and light. Now it was a battlefield covered in smoke and ashes. Shattered crystal towers reflected the burning sky, and the once beautiful streets were filled with fallen soldiers, both human and alien. Elias stepped down first, scanning the horizon with his rifle ready. Behind him, Karin, the alien girl, followed quietly, wrapped in a tattered cloak to hide her glowing skin. Her steps were weak, but her eyes burned with determination. They weren't here for war. They were here for answers. Karin believed her father, the alien commander of Veres, had been forced into launching the bombings by the Council of Lords, a shadowy group that wanted to wipe out all humans. If they could find proof, maybe the war could still end. But Elias knew this mission was suicide. "We'll be lucky if we make a mile," he muttered. Karin looked at him softly. Then we will walk a mile together." Her voice was calm, but it cut through the chaos around them. He couldn't help but admire her courage. She had lost everything, her people, her home, and yet she walked beside him without fear. They moved through the ruined city, ducking behind walls and burned vehicles. The air shimmered from heat and plasma fire. Distant sirens cried. Then they heard footsteps, alien soldiers. Elias raised his gun, ready to fire, but Karen stopped him with a gentle hand. "Wait," she whispered. A group of alien soldiers appeared from the smoke, their weapons raised. But instead of shooting, they froze when they saw Karen. One of them, a tall warrior with silver armor, dropped his gun. "Princess, you're alive?" he said, disbelief and relief mixing in his voice. Elias's eyes widened. "Princess?" Karen stepped forward slowly. "Commander Vol, I need your help. We must reach the council tower." The alien commander hesitated. "It's suicide. The council's fortress is under lockdown. No one enters or leaves." Elias stepped in. "We'll find a way. You can come with us or stay here and die with the rest." The commander studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Very well. Human. But if you betray her, I will end you myself." Elias smirked. "Fair deal." Together, they began their march toward the council tower. The journey through Veres was a nightmare. Collapsing bridges, laser drones, and endless explosions. The streets were filled with glowing pools of alien blood and broken tech. Karen moved with quiet grace, her bare feet stepping over shattered glass without pain. She whispered a soft alien hymn, and for a brief moment, Elias felt calm. But that peace didn't last. A sudden explosion threw them to the ground. Debris rained down. When the dust cleared, Elias saw a massive alien tank emerging from the fire. Its cannons glowed red. "Run!" he shouted. They sprinted for cover as plasma blasts tore the street apart. Vol fired back with a heavy rifle, shouting orders to his remaining troops. Karen stumbled, falling hard on the ground. Elias turned back instantly, without hesitation. He ran through the smoke and grabbed her hand, pulling her up as another blast hit nearby. He covered her body with his, shielding her from the impact. The world around them exploded in light and sound. When it was over, Elias opened his eyes, his ears ringing, his armor cracked. Karen looked up at him, tears in her glowing eyes. "You didn't have to." "I told you," he said, breathing hard. "I'm not letting go." For a moment, time seemed to stop. Amid the fire and chaos, they stared at each other, human and alien, two souls defying the universe itself. Then Vol's voice broke the silence. "We're pinned down. Reinforcements are coming." Elias helped Karen to her feet. "We move. Now." They followed Vol through a shattered tunnel beneath the street. The air was thick with smoke and the hum of alien engines above. Karen limped slightly, her hand clutching Elias's arm. After what felt like hours, they emerged near the council tower, a massive crystalline spire surrounded by walls of blue energy. Karen's voice trembled. "That's where the truth is hidden." Elias nodded. "Then that's where we'll go." As they prepared for their final approach, a strange light flickered inside the tower, and Karen's skin began to glow brighter in response. Elias frowned. "What's happening?" She looked at him with fear in her eyes. "They know I'm here." And suddenly, the ground beneath them began to shake. The war for truth and survival had just begun. The ground trembled under their feet as bright blue cracks of energy spread through the streets. The council tower pulsed with strange light, like a living thing breathing in anger. Elias held Karen close as shards of crystal fell from the sky. Around them, Commander Vol's soldiers shouted in their alien tongue, forming a defensive circle. "What's happening?" Elias asked. Karen's voice shook. "The tower, it's reacting to me. They use my blood to power it." Elias frowned. "Your blood." She nodded slowly, tears forming in her glowing eyes. "When my father was captured, they took samples from both of us. They used our DNA to control the defense system, to destroy anyone they called the enemy." Elias realized the truth. The bombs, the attacks, the endless fighting. It wasn't just war. It was control. Someone had turned Karin's life essence into a weapon. Vol shouted from behind them. Princess! Enemy drones inbound. Before Elias could respond, hundreds of hovering drones swarmed from the horizon, firing glowing plasma bolts. The air turned white hot. Move! Elias yelled, pulling Karin toward the ruins of an old bridge. He fired his rifle, taking down 2 drones with precise shots. The others followed him, returning fire. Explosions rocked the street. Dust and heat filled the air. Karin stumbled, clutching her chest. It hurts. Elias turned and caught her before she fell. Her skin was glowing brighter, too bright. Hey, stay with me, he said, gripping her shoulders. Her voice was weak. The tower, it's calling me. If I don't stop it, everyone will die. Vol ran over, firing another round. You can't go in there. The council has turned the whole core into a death trap. Karin looked between them. If I don't, my people and yours will burn together. Elias shook his head. No, we'll find another way. But Karin stepped forward, her hair shimmering like silver fire. Elias, you saved me once. Now let me save you. He grabbed her arm. I'm not letting you go. Her eyes softened. You might not have a choice. Before he could react, she kissed his forehead, a soft, glowing touch that filled him with warmth, and then she ran toward the tower. Karin, he shouted, chasing after her. The tower's doors opened with a blinding flash as she approached, almost as if the structure recognized her presence. Inside, a storm of blue light swirled around a massive crystal heart. The power core varies. From within the swirling light, shadows formed, tall alien figures, glowing with authority and cruelty. The Council of Lords. One of them stepped forward, his voice echoing through the chamber. The traitor returns. You were meant to lead us, not betray us, the humans. Karin's voice was calm, but full of pain. You used my people as weapons. My father wanted peace, and you killed him for it. Another figure laughed. Peace is weakness. Only through war do we survive. Elias burst into the chamber, rifle raised. Then you'll die with your war. The council turned toward him, their eyes glowing like fire. A human dares speak here? Elias fired. 3 quick shots that shattered one of the glowing control crystals. Sparks flew, and the chamber trembled. Karin rushed to the power core, placing her hands on its surface. Her skin glowed brighter than ever. Energy surged through her body, and the entire tower began to shake violently. Elias ran toward her. Karin, stop. It'll kill you. She smiled sadly through the light. I can stop the weapon, but not without paying the price. The council shouted in fury, trying to stop her. But Vol's soldiers stormed in behind Elias, firing in every direction. The air turned into chaos. Flashes of blue, screams, and burning light. Elias reached her just as cracks spread across the crystal core. He grabbed her hand, ignoring the pain from the burning energy. I told you, he said through gritted teeth. I'm not letting go. Tears rolled down her cheeks, glowing like liquid stars. Then we'll end this together. A final explosion of light filled the chamber. The power core shattered, sending a wave of blinding energy across the city. When the light faded, the tower was silent. Elias woke up in the rubble, his ears ringing. Smoke and dust filled the air. Vol stood nearby, injured but alive. Where's Karin? Elias croaked. Vol pointed weakly. In the center of the ruins, Karin lay motionless, her body surrounded by faint blue light. Elias crawled to her side, ignoring the pain in his body. He touched her hand. It was warm, but fading. Her eyes fluttered open. Did we save them? Elias smiled weakly. Yeah, you did. She smiled faintly. Then it was worth it. Her hand slipped from his, and the light around her slowly faded. Elias held her close, the same way he had on the battlefield when bombs fell around them. He didn't cry. He just held her tighter, refusing to let go. Vol lowered his head. She saved us all. Elias whispered softly. No, we saved each other. Outside, the war was over. The skies cleared for the first time in years, and the city of glass shimmered under the sun once again. Smoke drifted across the horizon as the sun rose over the ruins of Veres. The once burning city now glowed with soft golden light. For the first time in years, the sound of war was gone. Elias sat on a broken piece of marble, his armor cracked and his body covered in dust and blood. But none of that mattered. His eyes were fixed on the body of Karin, lying a few steps away beneath the morning light. She looked peaceful, too peaceful for someone who had just stopped a war. Her silver hair shimmered faintly in the wind, and her face was calm, almost smiling. Vol and his remaining soldiers stood in silence. None of them spoke. Even the wind seemed afraid to disturb the moment. Finally, Elias stood up and walked to her side. He knelt down, brushing the dust gently from her face. "You did it," he whispered. "You really did it." Vol stepped forward, his voice low and rough. "Her sacrifice destroyed the Council's core. The weapon systems are dead. The armies have stopped fighting." Elias nodded slowly. "She ended the war her people started." There was silence again, then Vol said, "She was the last of her bloodline. She gave everything for peace." Elias clenched his fists. "Then I'll make sure no one forgets her." He took a small piece of the shattered crystal core, the one that held the Council's power, and placed it in her hand. It pulsed faintly with blue light. "For her," he said quietly. They buried her beneath the tallest crystal pillar, still standing. The morning sun made it shine like a star. Elias stood there for a long time, not moving, until the sky turned blue again. Days passed. Human ships landed across Veres, not to fight, but to rebuild. The surviving alien forces laid down their weapons. For the first time, humans and aliens worked side by side, clearing rubble, helping the wounded, sharing food and water. Elias became a name whispered among both sides, the human who saved the alien princess. But he didn't care about titles. He spent his days helping the survivors, and his nights sitting by the crystal where she rested. Sometimes, when the wind was still and the stars were bright, he swore he could hear her voice, soft and distant. "Elias, you kept your promise." One night, Vol found him sitting there again. "You've been here every night," the commander said. Elias didn't look up. "She's the reason we're all still breathing." Vol nodded. "The Council is gone, but not all their followers. Some still hide in the shadows, angry at what she did." Elias turned toward him. "Then I'll protect her memory, even if I have to fight them all." Vol studied him for a moment. "You sound like one of us now." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe I am." Weeks later, a group of alien children came to the ruins. They had heard stories of Karin, the princess who ended the war. Elias guided them to the shining crystal where she was buried. He knelt down and spoke softly, using the alien words she once taught him. She believed that peace is not weakness. It's courage. The children listened quietly, eyes wide with awe. One of them asked, "Was she really your friend?" Elias looked at the glowing crystal and smiled sadly. "More than that, she was hope." Months turned into a year. Veres began to rebuild. Human and alien engineers worked together to restore the city. New towers rose beside the old ruins. At the center of it all stood a new monument, a statue of Karin with one hand reaching toward the sky and the other holding a small human child. Beneath it, carved in both human and alien language, were the words. She gave her light so others could see. Elias stood before it every day. His hair had grown longer, his armor replaced by a simple worker's jacket, but his eyes still carried the same fire. He often spoke to the statue softly, as if she could still hear him. "You'd like it here now. They're finally learning to live together." Sometimes the light from the statue reflected in just the right way, glowing faintly blue, the same color as her eyes. And every time that happened, Elias smiled. One evening, as the twin moons rose over Veres, Elias walked toward the old council ruins, the place where it all ended. The ground still shimmered faintly with leftover energy from the explosion. He knelt and pressed his hand against the cracked floor. "I still remember what you said," he whispered. "We will walk a mile together." A soft gust of wind brushed his face, carrying a faint whisper. "I'm still walking, Karin," he said, "still keeping that promise." The The stars above shone brighter, and the air filled with quiet warmth, almost like she was there beside him again. Years passed. The war between humans and aliens had become only a story, one that parents told their children, so they would never forget what hate could do. Veres, once the city of glass and blood, had turned into the city of unity, a shining place where both species lived and worked together. But even as peace grew strong, one man's heart still lived in the past. Elias Ward, older now with gray streaks in his hair, stood quietly on the balcony of the New Peace Tower. From here, he could see everything. The rebuilt streets, the markets filled with laughter, and the statue of Corin glowing under the twin suns. Her silver image still caught the morning light, just as her real hair once did. Every day, people left flowers beneath her statue. Humans, aliens, even children who had never known war. To them, she was a hero. To Elias, she was someone he could never let go of. He still carried her pendant around his neck, a small crystal fragment that pulsed faintly with blue light. It was part of the power core she had destroyed, the one that once enslaved her people. Now, it was all he had left of her. As he held it in his palm, a young alien girl approached him. She couldn't have been older than 10. Her skin shimmered faintly violet, and her bright blue eyes reminded him so much of Corin that his heart skipped a beat. "Are you Elias Ward?" she asked shyly. He nodded, smiling softly. "Yes, that's me." "My mother says you were Corin's protector," the girl said. "Is it true?" Elias looked down at the pendant. "I tried to be, but in the end, she was the one who protected us all." The little girl smiled and handed him a folded piece of paper. "We made this in school. We learned about her today." He unfolded it carefully. It was a drawing. Stick figures of a human holding an alien girl's hand, with bombs falling in the background and light spreading around them. The words beneath it read, "She showed us what love looks like." Elias felt his throat tighten. He looked at the girl, then back at the glowing statue. "Thank you," he whispered. "She'd be happy to see this." The girl tilted her head. "Do you still miss her?" He smiled sadly. "Every day." She nodded softly, then ran off to join her friends, leaving Elias standing alone under the soft wind. That night, Elias visited the old battlefield outside Veres. Grass had begun to grow over craters. The air was calm and full of fireflies. He stopped at a small hill where a single crystal marker stood, the place where Corin had fallen. He knelt beside it, brushing away the dust. The crystal still glowed faintly, as if it remembered her touch. "I kept my promise," he said quietly. "Humans and your people live together now. They build, they laugh, they dream, the way you wanted." He placed the pendant on the ground, beside the crystal marker. Its light blended with hers, glowing brighter than before. "I think it's time I let you rest," he whispered. "But you'll never fade from me." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then the wind shifted, warm and soft, and the faint sound of a familiar voice brushed his ear. "Elias." He froze. It was gentle and melodic, just as he remembered. He looked up, and for a second, in the shimmer of light above the hill, he saw her. Corin, smiling, her silver hair flowing in the wind, eyes bright with that same calm strength. "Your heart kept its promise," her voice echoed softly. "Now let go of pain and live." He reached out, his eyes wet. "Corin." But she was gone, just light in the wind. Still, Elias smiled. For the first time in years, the ache in his chest eased. He stood and looked at the twin moons rising over Veres. The night was peaceful, and the stars looked closer than ever. Months later, Veres held a grand festival, the Day of the Light, honoring the peace Corin had created. People from across the galaxy came to see the ceremony. As the final lights rose into the sky, they formed a glowing symbol, two hands reaching toward each other, one human, one alien. The crowd cheered, but among them, a few saw something strange. A faint figure standing beside the monument, her silver hair shining like starlight. And beside her stood a man, smiling. For just a heartbeat, Elias and Corin were there again, together, watching the world they had saved. Then the light faded, leaving only the stars. Years later, the The story of the human and the alien girl became a legend told across countless worlds. A story of two souls who refused to let go, even as bombs fell around them. And some say that on quiet nights, when the wind is calm and the stars are bright, if you stand by the crystal monument on Veries, you can hear a whisper. Two voices, human and alien, speaking softly together. Not of war, not of sorrow, but of hope